All right. You guys, thank you for joining me and David on this podcast again. We did an episode with these guys here. It was like months ago.
Yeah.
Can you not slurp into the mic?
I had to. Sorry. The shout out to Mr. Steven Crowder.
I just want to thank you guys for coming. We had an episode a few months ago, but all the footage got corrupted. So it was a huge shame. I mean, not all the footage, but a whole angle was just gone. Audio too, and it was just a mess. So we got these guys back on again. Cory Galindez.
That's me.
And Anthony Minor.
What's up? Whoa.
Oh yeah, you got an actual.
I know
you got an actual update, bro.
You got stuff going on.
I had stuff going on. That's the thing, man. And so I was.
You still have stuff going on. It's just less stuff.
Yeah. I was slated to do some work on the border. I was gonna do border security. So
just as a pause, the Border Patrol does actually do security.
Oh yeah.
That sounds like a pretty boring job, though.
Nah. Well,
on a good day,
you'd want it to be boring. The thing is that there's a lot of what we call contact. So, and most of it's like surrenders. I guess not contact. Like, sorry.
What we call in the biz, contact.
Not like fire contact. I guess you get a lot of surrender. So you get a lot of people that are like surrendering themselves, or you get a lot of people that are actually going to come up and try and cross the border.
Mm-hmm.
And so you got to send them away. You got to call Border Patrol, that kind of stuff. And so
you're not doing that anymore at the moment?
No. So actually, I've been out back and forth in El Paso and New Mexico, but actually I haven't had the chance to work a full shift at all. So
let me ask a quick question. All these certifications you had to get for like working in Texas, working in New Mexico, do you have to pay for those out of pocket, or?
So this is the life of the contract security. Yeah. So you do have to pay for all that stuff up front, but depending on who your employer is, which I have a really, really good employer, they will reimburse you for the actual certifications and stuff like that. So, your hotel stay, they won't particularly pay for your food or anything like that, but they will pay for the certifications for the time that you take to go out and do the training. So it's one of those things where I guess in this particular situation for me, and I'm actually learning a lot of things, really about God, man, about Jesus, man, and I've kind of come to a place, man, it's where like I may not know Jesus as well as I thought I did, and so there was a lot of it, like, because it's such a good job, I'm like, man, I just want to do this, and it's like, all right, God, there's this job, I want to do it, and bless it, okay, thanks. And that's kind of how it's been. So I kind of feel like I don't feel like it's God so much taking it away from me, because I feel like God was like, yeah, go ahead, fine, do it, and I did, and I've invested a ton of money into this. But at the same time, it wasn't so much, God, really, is this really your will?
Yeah.
Is this really where you want me to be? And now I'm in a place where I'm having to backtrack, because the more that I'm actually searching out, Jesus, what really is your will for me? Because that's what I'm on right now is, so if there's any major thing going on in my life right now, it's, Jesus, I really need to figure out who you are even more. I need to be closer to you personally, because I feel like I'm one of those guys in the verse where Jesus is talking about, where they said, Lord, Lord, did we not, do miracles, in your name?
Prophesying your name.
Prophesying your name. And Jesus is like, depart from me, for I never knew you. Because there was a time when I first got saved. I've been saved probably better part of, say, like 12, 13 years, maybe, give or take. And at the beginning, man, there was an absolute relationship there, and I knew that I could hear God's voice, and I knew that I could move in the Spirit, and God was close to me, and there was this desire, this hunger, and I forget exactly who it was. It might have been Pastor Julio Blanco. Was like, man, if you can think back to a time to where you were really on fire, your fire's gone out. And I was like, oh man, yeah, totally. So right now, the biggest thing happening to me right now is like, man, I'm making this pursuit towards really trying to reestablish knowing who Christ really is. If you're, God's very, very gracious. He's a perfect gentleman.
Yeah.
If you're, like me, God, I want to do this. Okay.
Unless you make him mad. I'm sorry. Do you guys mind if I speak to Cory in Chinese really quick?
Go ahead, bro.
Please do.
No,
I don't want you to young one king.
that's not Chinese. That's not Chinese.
I was like, there was no Mandarin words there at
Can
all.
you just say something in Chinese really quick?
Sure. What do you want me to say?
Hold on. So I asked Anthony how he was doing.
But first, I really want to.
Now I want to ask you, how are you doing in Chinese? Tell us in Chinese.
So first of all, I think that your whole journey here has really unwrapped the secret of the scripture that you used.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. You mentioned the scripture where it says, these people come before Jesus and they go, didn't we cast out demons in your name? Didn't we move mountains in your name? Didn't we prophesy in your name?
Yeah.
And he says, depart from me, I never knew you. Right?
Yeah, exactly.
Let's break that down. Right? These people say, didn't we? Yeah,
collectively.
Like this collective thing. Didn't my church do these things?
You're standing.
Didn't our church send out churches? Didn't our stand? Because I never knew you.
Yeah.
I never knew you individually.
That's true.
Okay. So we're talking about a huge collective, and Jesus says, I didn't know you.
I never thought about that.
Okay.
That's so true.
So in that scripture, right, you're unwrapping this, right?
Mm-hmm.
You're saying, we as a church do these things, and I'm doing this.
So we as
and
the
Jesus
door
says, I want to know you,
judged.
Anthony. And you're going, I want to know you. Yeah, we as the door are not going to get judged,
stupid.
dude. Okay.
I mean, it's true, but
No, dude, but what's so interesting actually about that is you're right, man, because I think back to the earliest parts of my salvation. I've seen miracles, man.
Yeah.
I've been to healing crusades. I've been a part of these outreaches, man. I've preached on the bullhorn and stuff like that, but it's exactly that. I've been a part of
a collective.
Of a collective.
But God looks at your heart too, bro.
Right.
That's the thing. And you do have a heart for God, but you're also a family man.
But this is the thing, is that he's been a part of all these things as a collective.
Right.
Now Anthony's reaching out to be a part of all these things because Jesus wants him to be a part of these things.
Because there's very few, there's
connection.
very few times where I have personally, prayed for somebody and seen, a healing or seen something change. And it's given me goosebumps. There's been times, man, where I've been able to, speak something in somebody's life in due season because it's not anything that I had, but because of the word that I had in me, and watch it change somebody's life, man, and watch people get it, understand salvation. I've seen their eyes open, and it's like, man, they realize who Jesus is, man, and those moments and times have given me like a joy that's like,
so maybe
if I could feel that all the time, you know what I mean? But it's been very specific times, and it's too few and far in between, to say that, to have to stand before Jesus and be like, oh yeah, I did all these things. I did nothing. I've done nothing.
I would highly recommend. I would highly recommend a book by John Bevere and a video series. I have access to both if you want them.
Yes.
That's called Driven by Eternity. And in that book, he talks about people coming to the throne of God, to the judgment seat of God, and God saying, James the pastor, come forward. And he goes, but sir, I do drywall. And he goes, I know, but I called you to be a pastor. So I have a question for you. Where is the 10,000 souls that were supposed to be with you when you were a pastor? And the man stands there in shame, right? Because he loved Jesus his whole life, but he didn't do what God called him to do. And then conversely, he says, John the plumber, come here. And he goes, but I'm a pastor. I pastored a church in 3 cities. And he goes, but I called you to be a plumber and to minister to people in their own homes. So where are the 476 souls that I called you to win?
Yeah,
it's like, because every one of us has a calling from God. Yeah. And we have to find that. We have to have a deep personal relationship with God to try to find that.
I really like that point because you say, you're called to be a pastor. Where are the souls that you're supposed to be reaching? And like the pastor's called to be a plumber, where are the souls that you're supposed to be reaching?
Yeah.
Because we're all supposed to evangelize.
We're all supposed to be reaching souls.
Reaching souls, but not all called to be pastors.
Yeah.
Correct.
That's a very good
Have
point.
you heard that story, Alphabel?
Yeah, that's from Driven by Eternity. Yeah.
Yeah. Man, so I heard, me and my wife, we had listened to that, man. And we, and this was just before like bedtime. We started
It will
at, like,
change
bro,
your
it
perception.
jacked us up,
Dude.
dude.
What is this called?
It's called Affabel. It's it's like a C.S. Lewis kind of story about life, death, and eternity. And it will change your perception of eternity.
Is it a book?
It's in the book, so it's written like a book, but they do this audio.
Yeah, there's an audio.
This like super high quality audio book reading of it.
Yeah.
That's really really cool.
Yeah.
Oh, that's cool.
It'd be an amazing play.
Yes,
dude.
it would.
Oh my goodness.
Yeah, it would.
Oh my, yeah.
Wow.
It kind of drags at the beginning, but when you hit eternity, you're just like, okay, just stop. I'm gonna repent.
Yeah, dude. Me and my wife, we just kind of stayed up. Like after it was over, we
We're just sit there, you like wipe the tears off.
I'm
your
gonna
face.
be a gardener in heaven.
So tell us something in Chinese, Cory.
你好，我会说一点点中国，可是我说的不好So I just said, hello, I speak a little Chinese, but I'm not very good. I don't speak very good.
We also ordered 2 Dr. Peppers.
No, but I can't do that.
That's pretty cool, man. How long did it take you to learn as much as you know?
I think I would have learned a lot more if I had not used Pimsleur's Chinese before I went to China. So for about a year before we went, I started using the Pimsleur CDs. I checked them out from the library and then ripped them all onto my computer because I'm a thief. And then started listening to them in the car. I burned my own CDs and then started listening to them in the car constantly. And I'll say that same thing the way Pimsleur's taught me, and then the way is actually correct on the street. Okay. So the first one, okay, this is what Pimsleur's teaches you. 我会说一点儿普通话，可是我说的不好. Okay, so that's Pimsleur's Chinese. The real street way to say it is 我会说一点点中国，可是我说的不好. Okay, so you feel how much softer it is. There's not a lot of R. Okay, because Pimsleur's teaches you a dialect of Chinese that's only spoken in Beijing. So it's like super high-end proper Chinese. But you get down to the street and you say, 我会说一点儿普通话, and they go, and I mean,
crazy?
Yeah, they're just like, what are you talking about?
I don't know why
who do you think you are?
Yeah.
White man speaking our language better than us.
That's like if you go to the south side of Tucson and you're like, would you like some tea?
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
You're in South LA going, please, sir, may I have some more?
No, so for you. What was that? What's the phrase that you're saying? What does it translate to?
That's I speak a little Chinese,
same phrase.
but I don't speak very well. I don't speak very good. So you can. There's a lot of things that are what the really cool thing about Chinese is that you can say very little and say a whole lot. Okay. I like the fact that in Chinese you can just use a verb as a whole sentence. Okay.
Oh, wow.
So like if I ask you, can you do this? Okay. Like, can you go to the mall and get me a thing and do the thing and do this thing? And I hand you like a list of 5 things. You can just go 可以, which is can. 可以. And that's yes, or 不可以, no. So
how
it's
do
like,
you say no?
不可以.
不可以.
Yeah. So that's, I can't do it. Okay. If you just want to say no, it's boo.
Boo.
Boo. So yeah.
Well,
how. So how is good. So boo how is bad. It's not good. It's no good. Right. So by adding no in front of any verb, you make it a negative. Okay. So it was fairly easy to learn, but the hard part was unlearning all the Chinese that I learned before I got there. It was like, so I had this all in my head because I'm an actor. So I memorized scripts, right? So I didn't know the grammar and I didn't know the individual words. I had memorized phrases, just chunks of text. And I knew the meaning of this chunk of text.
I did the same thing with Italian too.
So you just memorize the big phrase, it's like,
Mhm.
because it's easier. You're just like, I know that this means this. So I would just use these like stock phrases. But then once I got there and started to realize that I was speaking it all wrong, then I was forced to learn grammar and words and individual things. And then I was like, oh my God, but you're immersed.
Yeah.
And when we got to Changsha, we really thought that we were going to run into a lot of English speakers, but there weren't any. So when you're hungry and you're trying to order food at a restaurant, you learn Chinese pretty fast.
So for those of you that are listening in on Spotify and not, don't even know Cory, I mean, he lived in China
3 years.
for 3 years. So he knows a little bit about what he's talking about.
I did. I lived in deep central China, the capital of the Hunan province, Changsha City.
Dude.
And he also pastored an underground church.
I did. That was the whole reason I was there.
We had to make sure it's
That is insane.
underground. It was definitely it wasn't that underground. It was.
Well,
It was pretty underground.
I do really want to get into that.
All right,
but
let's do it.
You down to do that instead?
Yeah, let's do it.
Okay, so originally the idea was guns and stuff, but I kind of want to
Guns
get
and
into
roses.
what you did out there and
Totally.
your whole experience in China. You guys down to
Dude,
dive in?
Yeah,
Yeah,
So,
absolutely.
I actually
And then we'll take a little shift to still promote your guys' business and what you're doing with the concealed carry permit classes and stuff.
Absolutely.
So but I want to hear a little bit about that.
All right. So what do you want to know? Ask me anything.
It's pretty amazing.
Well, when
dude.
you first got there, I mean, the culture shock of even having to order food, like you said, like what was the adjustment period that it took for you to even being able to function in China?
function.
Being able to function took us about a year and a half.
Oh, wow.
So we were really, really, really like, there's a joke, there's a meme. The word for this thing is juga.
Juga.
And there are two words like so I have this and I have that, right? It's juga naga. Juga naga. Okay. So when we first got to China, you hear people say, how often in your daily life do you say the word that? Right?
Mhm.
Pretty often. You don't even realize you're saying it. So we'd be standing in elevators and they'd be like, nigga, 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 nigga. And I'm like, what in the heck is going on here?
Oh my God.
But they're saying, that's not right. That's cool. That's awesome. We'll
my
do that.
gosh.
Yes, we'll do that. We'll go there. And I'm just like, what in the world is happening? What are they saying? Okay. Because the word
That's funny.
nigga is that in Chinese, right? So I'm sitting here and there was a huge culture shock as far as the way people behave. Like spitting in public is not just culturally accepted, it's encouraged, right? It's healthy for you to spit whatever it is that's in your mouth. So
What?
you'll see
What does that mean?
so you'll see very attractive women, right, coming out of hair salons, and they're all dolled up, beautiful makeup. They look like supermodels. They're walking across the lobby of this really expensive hotel, and they go and just spit on the floor of the lobby, and they just
Are
keep
you
walking.
serious?
Oh yeah, absolutely,
Yeah.
100%. Yeah,
Wait,
absolutely.
But why?
Because
Why?
this is just a
It's
cultural
a-
thing. It's a cultural thing. It's not uncommon to be like walking down the street and see like a little kid just taking a dump on the sidewalk. They
Yeah.
just squat down and they take a dump on the sidewalk. Okay, and you're like, oh,
I was just gonna leave that there
Good kid.
then, huh? All right, cool.
So
and just carry on.
that's not like a poor thing. That's just like a,
That's just a cultural thing.
oh
Okay.
my gosh.
So when you
So they weren't lying when they said chino cochino.
so China is really it's a third world country that paints a first world facade on the outside.
Mm.
So China looks great in the photographs. High-rise buildings, Maseratis, Porsches,
Oh,
Lamborghinis.
man.
But culturally, they're still very third world. They're still very backwards. So that was a lot of adjustment. My daughter, I think, my son and daughter took the worst of it. They were 15 and 16 when we went.
Mm.
And so they were old enough to have had to sacrifice and leave friends and actually make the effort to go. And then they got there and they hated everything about China. I mean,
They didn't like it?
no, they hated everything about China with the exception of the food. So it took us about 8 months to really get a church or a Bible study moving because you don't have any English speakers, right? There's no English speakers there. So I have a big ego. Okay, and I
No.
like, oh, it's terrible, man. Okay, I have such a problem with pride,
that's
man.
not it. It's weird.
So when I got to China and I could already speak a little bit of Chinese, I want to speak Chinese, right? I want to get to the point where I can preach in Chinese. I want to get to the point where I can witness to people in Chinese and pray for people in Chinese. The problem with that idea is that I'm not Chinese. So in my mind, I think like an American. I don't think like a Chinese. So even if I were to speak fluent Chinese, they still look at my face and say, oh, that dude's just an American. So the concepts and the idea of reaching the Chinese, we have to make it an indigenous work. You have to disciple Chinese to reach Chinese. Because then they look at that dude and they go, oh, he's Chinese. He's my culture. And he's saying this. That means it must be true. You know, like you have to break down this cultural barrier before you can break down the sinner saint
So it's
barrier.
almost like you're going there with the goal to leave somebody there in your place.
Correct. Correct. And I didn't understand that for the first year and a half. And then I started to realize these cultural barriers. And then I went, okay. So then my focus became not just evangelism, but evangelism for the purpose of discipleship. Like I really started to look at people differently. Who can I disciple? And I can only disciple English speakers. So then my whole focus changed from accepting everyone into the Bible study, accepting everyone into the English corner, and just hunting down every single English speaker I could find, no matter what their English level was. And then just hitting them with the gospel and trying to pull them in.
So you had said something, English corner. So that was what you were. That was your undercover.
So
that was your.
So we had a church, but the church initially started meeting in a hotel meeting room. We rented a hotel meeting room because if we were ever discovered,
Let's bring your mic closer. Sorry.
Because if we were ever discovered,
There you go.
then we could just pack up shop. Oh, we're really sorry. We'll go. And we just to the next hotel, to the next meeting room, right?
Mhm.
And so that was our initial plan, was to have church. But we realized that at any point in time, if I invite somebody off the street to come to church, then I could be inviting a member of the FSB. I could be inviting a cop.
What? Oh, that's their police?
Yeah, that's their Foreign Security Bureau. So it's like the KGB in Russia, but
FBI.
the FBI here.
Oh, wow.
So this is like their super high tier. They will put you in prison for breaking the law kind of people, right? These are their super discreet cops. So I could be inviting a member of the FSB to the church. I don't know, because it's China. Okay, I have no idea who these people are. So I had to set up tiers of vetting. So what I would invite them to is when I met somebody on the street who spoke pretty good English, I would invite them to my English corner. Then once I got them to the English corner, now we're playing Uno, we're playing, like other card games. We're practicing English verbs and looking at works of art.
Wait, so who told you to do that though? Like, because I mean, obviously if you didn't go, did you go there with that plan to first vet people, or did something happen where you're like, oh crap, I can't do this like normal?
No, I knew that I was going to have to vet people, but I had no idea what that would look like. So when I got there, there was another guy there that met us and kind of helped us get established and taught us how to function in China, taught us little secrets. Like if you go into any mall in China, the top 2 floors are restaurants. So like little things like that, right? Because you're not going to ever figure out that, where's the restaurants, man? I can't find a restaurant anywhere, And everybody's like walking around with Burger King bags and you're going, I just want a burger. Where's the Burger King?
He visited him in China.
Yeah. So
you did? Yeah, he went, him and his wife.
So I don't want to step on Cory or anything like that. I'm there for 2 weeks. Yeah. Talk about culture shock, bro. So we get into the airport, bro, and like it's like a 7-Eleven, but it's nothing 7-Eleven-y ish there.
Dude, it's literally like flying into a military terminal.
Yeah, it's wild, man. And then so I'm like, all right, I got to use the restroom, do that. And so the biggest culture shock there immediately, dude. Immediately, man. I go in there. And everything is squat
ceramic
stalls, bro.
hole.
There's these holes in the floor. Some are covered with ceramic. Some are just flat out.
Wait,
holes.
they don't have toilets.
They don't have urinals. They don't have
urinals
there, dude.
Western toilets are like super luxury.
Yeah, big time luxury. Everywhere is if you needed to.
Are they hard to make?
No.
That's horrible. We get most of them from China, right?
Yeah, I think so. So when we moved into our apartment, our apartment had one Western toilet and one squat hole. And that's like we had two bathrooms, one in the master bedroom, and that had a Western toilet, which is called a matong. If you're ever in China looking for an apartment, okay, you call it a matong, and that's two Chinese words, horse and bucket. It's a horse bucket.
Horse bucket.
so you have to ask for a matong, and then they'll show you the Western toilets. But we had one Western toilet, and the front bathroom was just a squat hole, and there was no drain for the shower. The shower just drains into the squat hole.
Yep, dude. And so if you had to drop a deuce, bro, you were squatting, bro. You were squatting it out.
Yeah, and it's not like a Chinese squat hole where you just kind of like you can kind of hover. No, it's like a deep.
Yeah, bro. So you
butt to the ground
you
squat.
Could fall in there.
Oh yeah, totally.
Yeah.
One. Oh yeah.
And with
have you fell in there?
No, but I have dropped stuff in there.
It's gone forever, bro. Gone.
You dropped stuff in there?
Yeah.
The abyss. It's done.
Yep.
And with my
you don't even make an attempt to save it. You just look and you go.
Nah. Well, I
dang. I like that. I really liked that.
There wasn't a lot of that for me. Luckily, where we were staying, we had a lot of Western stuff, and we had a really, really nice place. I'll give Miguel a whole bunch of pictures of stuff that I took there.
All right. So that was our good tangent.
So we knew that. So the guy that was already there, he told us that this was his way of vetting people. Go English corner, go and then Bible study. So essentially what we did was we went English corner, and during the English corner, while we're playing all these games, these board games and stuff, we're like talking to them about, hey, dude, where you from? Where's your family do? You know, do you have any plans to join in the military? Are you in the military? You know, oh, that's super cool. Oh no, man, I'm a cop. Oh, that's super cool, man. What's it like to be a cop in China? And we're like everybody's best friend at the English corner, right?
Oh, you're a cop. You can't go to heaven.
Nope. So somebody else gonna have to reach that cop. Okay. Okay. Because
you ain't shutting us down.
White dude is not gonna reach that cop. Okay. So I would like talk to these people, and when I find out, oh, they're college students, or they're stewardesses and airlines or whatever, then all of a sudden everybody's our best friend. But in the English corner, we can be everybody's best friend, because even if they're a cop, they're like, so how much is everybody paying to be a part of this English corner? You go, nothing. These are just my friends hanging out, practicing English. And he goes, oh, okay. So I'm not breaking any law. I'm just hanging out at a coffee shop with a bunch of friends, playing games and practicing English, and I'm not charging them anything.
It's an interesting thing too, because and you can correct me if I'm wrong, English is like a popular thing over there.
Yeah, it's almost like pop culture.
Yeah,
so
like to learn English is like it's super cool.
Yeah,
and you're doing it for free.
I'm doing it for free,
technically. So
I'm not breaking any laws. But once I figure out that you're a safe person in the English corner, then what I would do is I would come in, and always in my backpack, I had a DVD case for the Son of God. And then in that DVD case, I had half a dozen USB drives with the Son of God video on there.
What video is that?
The movie, The Son of God, that Hollywood production, Son of God.
Oh, okay. I know what you're talking about. Vaguely.
Yeah, vaguely. It was maybe 10 years ago or so. They came out with this like super high quality Hollywood
right here.
So I would have
it's your phone, yeah.
I would have them ripped onto USBs, and I would give them a USB. I'd hand them I'd hand them the CD case, and I'd give them the USB, and I'd go, "Hey, this is my favorite movie. If you love Western movies, you're really gonna like this movie. You know, so watch this movie. Come back next week and tell me what you think about this movie, because this is my favorite movie." And
they're just getting the whole Bible story right there.
And they get the entire story of Jesus from birth to crucifixion and resurrection in a single Hollywood feature, right? And it's all subtitled in Chinese.
And is that movie pretty like spot on?
Yeah, it's not bad.
Yeah.
Okay.
It's not bad. So then after all that, they would come back the next week because it's Chinese tradition, right? I got to give this back to you. Okay.
Oh.
So they come back the next week and they give me back my USB and I go, oh, thank you. What'd you think? And I'd get one of two responses. I did not like it. I thought that Captain America was better. You know, or I have always been curious about Jesus. I have heard very little things, whispers, and I've never known much. And I go, well, would you like to know more about Jesus? Because I teach another class about Jesus.
Beef. So in China, they don't have beef. They have water buffalo.
Sure
Yeah, everything is water.
Oh,
I've had dog. I ate dog. We ate dog for like a year and a half.
So you've actually consumed dog.
Heck yeah, I've consumed dog. It's
How does
delicious.
it taste? It tastes
It's
good.
delicious, man. It's all rich and savory and it's
Really?
Yeah, there's a little restaurant when we first got to China, like literally we get off the airplane, dude meets us. He helps us get downtown to where our Airbnb is.
Uh-huh.
And as we're walking in, I'm dragging 3 suitcases.
Of dog?
No. Sarah's dragging 2 suitcases. Each kid is dragging 2 suitcases. And the kids are mortified, right? They're like, we're like the weirdos walking down the street with suitcases. We got like 10 suitcases. And they didn't realize
Not that weird. Everyone's eating
that
dog.
everyone is dragging suitcases around. It's like the way people just drag their groceries around as they have rolling suitcases.
Yeah.
So after about a year there, they realized how foolish we didn't look on the first day there. But Mark kind of stops and there's this restaurant on the right-hand side and we kind of step in there and Mark just sort of like orders some stuff off the menu. The menu's entirely in Chinese, no English translations, no help at all. He just sort of like points at things and some of that and some of that and some of that and some of that. And like 7 or 8 dishes come and we eat and it's freaking delicious, man.
He doesn't.
Our first meal
He doesn't
in China.
tell you what he's ordering.
No, and then he's kind of like in the middle of eating. He goes, "Oh, good, nothing weird."
So, but it's a specific type of dog that they breed, right?
No, they have any kind of dog.
Come on, man. How could you eat dogs, bro?
Well, because here's the deal: we
No
ordered
different
this
than
dish,
cows,
right?
man.
And we're sort of like
that's different though. Like you
we're
have
kind of
dogs
like-
as pets, and
Yeah,
like
cows
you
as
fall in
pets.
love with
You
dogs.
fall in
and-
love with a pig.
so we
Don't
so
mean it
Sarah
won't
at
make
one
great
point so Sarah at one point she like points at this thing and she goes, well let's try that. We don't know what it is. It's all in Chinese, man. So it comes and it's this little pieces of like stewed fatty meat on this like vegetable base. And we started eating it and oh my God, it's so delicious. Oh, and we eat it for like 4 months. And then one day Sarah goes, you know what I should do? I should break out like Google Translate because they have the video translate, you know, where you can like shine your thing or show the camera and it'll translate. And then I can write down what everything on the menu is. And then we can know what we're ordering. And I was like, awesome. Then we can know if we want to try something new. So as we're going through, we hit this one that we always order and it just says dog meat. And we go, apparently dog is delicious.
Well,
So we didn't stop ordering it. We just kept ordering it. It was very good.
Did you try dog when you were out there?
no,
He didn't come up to us.
It was. I don't know if it was different, like for where you guys are at or whatever the province.
Yeah, I don't think they eat it very much down south.
Yeah, well, so everything that I came across that was pretty much there, everything was soup based. Everything was so the street vendors they had. It was always like meat on a stick. It was always like something, and those are actually very good. Everything is covered in cumin though. I can't do very much cumin, but everything was covered in cumin. And at the time I was like, this is great. And so you get all kinds of different kinds of soup. So there's a lot of stuff I tried that I didn't know what it was. And then when you actually go to a restaurant, there's very few pictures.
Yeah.
So I'm just like, man, I don't know. But the food was really good. Everybody expected me not to try it. I did. But then, like I said before, I did find the one and only McDonald's, man.
Did you just use your nose or what?
Dude, I have no idea. I was like, there it is. I found it, guys. So I'll be back.
There are only 5 in all of China. Well, I can't say that because up in Shanghai, there's like a Texas Roadhouse.
Would find the only McDonald's, dude.
I would, and I did, and it was.
Do they have hot and spicy's there?
No, they don't.
Oh.
It's very limited, and they sell rice.
They sell rice?
Yeah, they have like rice bowls and stuff. Yeah,
rice is like that's like their like beans are for Mexicans.
Surprisingly enough, a lot of the main dishes and stuff, like when you're at restaurants, they like normally rice would be a side dish. It's not like a normal thing. You actually had to request it, like for us. And then like people would have a lot of rice in their home, but we didn't get invited to people's homes at all. So I was like,
you turn to your waiter and you go, 服务员, 我想要米饭, 可以吗? And that's asking for rice. You're like, hey, waiter, can I get some more rice, please?
How do you say rice in Chinese?
米饭.
米饭.
Mm-hmm.
米饭.
米饭.
Yeah.
So if somebody ever says "mi fan" to me, they're not telling me they're a fan of me.
Mi fan.
They want rice. But it was cool because everything. So like they bring like Cory was saying, they bring everything out, and it's just like a big table just full of food, and everybody just get. Oh man, the cabbage. Fried cabbage.
Oh, dude. They have this oil fried cabbage.
Oh, my goodness.
It will change your life, dude.
That actually sounds pretty good.
Oh, my gosh,
so good.
bro.
Everything you guys have been mentioning sounded disgusting, but this sounds pretty good. I'd probably eat the cabbage, not the dog.
Oh man, they have this this dish that's called huego roll. Huego roll is twice cooked. Huego roll is twice cooked pork. And what it's like strips, like bacon.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, dude.
Mm-hmm.
That will also change your life.
Yeah.
And then they have Hong Shao Rou, which is Mao's red pork. But it's not the way it is here. Like here we have like the little spare ribs and has that's all the red sauce.
Yeah.
And that's supposed to be like Mao's pork, but it's not. Okay. Yeah. Mao's red pork is like this. It's pork belly. It's a chunk of pork belly. And then they slow braise it like all day until you can just reach in and just pull chunks of it off with chopsticks. Dude, it's like the world's best pulled pork.
Yep.
Wow.
What's funny, dude, is we kept going to this little soup restaurant, this outdoor soup place. And again, one of the big things that was surprising is that like they don't do like specific order. Like you order what it is, and you don't get like chicken and beef. They either have beef bowl and they have a chicken bowl. Like you don't put like chicken in your beef. So when I get there, I'm like, hey, can they do it without like the onions? Can they do it without the spring roll? Can they do it without? Can I get like a double portion of beef? And so he's like, the guy that was there that was helping us, he was trying to explain all this to the waitress, and she's like, what? She didn't understand it. And then my father-in-law had to be like, dude, this is not America. You can't get things the way that you want. And
it's not Burger King either.
Yeah, there's no special requests.
There's no special requests.
Pizza Hut and order a Whopper.
Yeah, I mean, and I'm definitely that guy.
Really?
Yeah, I'm definitely the guy that'll try it.
You'll walk in a Pizza Hut and order a Whopper?
No, I'll try going to a Burger King, ask for a steak.
You just try to customize your order, right?
All the time, dude. I mean, you never know until you ask, right? So
I knew a guy at my old job, one of my old jobs. He got fired because we used to work for, it was DirecTV. And I can't remember what the lady wanted, but it was something that only Dish Network offered. And she was like demanding that we gave it to her. And it was a call center. He got on the phone and he goes, well, ma'am, you just don't walk in a Pizza Hut and order a Whopper. They monitored that call and they fired him for that.
Of course, it was a call they monitored.
Oh, so when you were talking about, how you did your Jesus class and all that, I remember you had mentioned something about the story of Noah, that they have a similar story out there.
Oh, yeah. If you talk to some of the old people who like remember their grandfather before Mao, like the time before Mao, there was an old legend in China that the Chinese race was birthed from a single person, okay, and his family, that he came to China on a great boat and his name was Noah.
Isn't that crazy, bro?
That's wild, dude.
That he is the father of the Chinese race. But that's been lost. If you look in like the new sort of museums and such, they go back to a woman emperor that's maybe 500-600 years after the flood would have been, and that's as far back as they trace the history.
Wow. So
Selective history.
does that mean that, and that ties in with that region of where everything was at, right?
Correct.
Wow.
So if you look at the history of the world, China is the oldest living civilization. Okay. When the Irish and the Germans were running around in loincloths, the Chinese were sophisticatedly creating poetry, symphonies. They had
And what happened
interlocking
to them?
governments. What do you mean?
Well, now they're a third world country that spit on the floors and eat dogs.
Well, that's
Mao
only
happened to them.
Mao.
kidding.
Can you break that down? Because I'm not really familiar with
Okay, so
the
what
history
happened
of
is,
China.
okay, so China's been feudal forever, right? It's been city states. So there's been this little region, that little region, and all these little regions were really their own countries, okay? And still, these languages exist. There are over 1,000 languages in China. So in my city, Changsha, there's actually a local dialect of Chinese called Changsha, but it doesn't sound anything like Chinese, and it doesn't have any similar characteristics to Chinese.
Are you able to mimic it a little bit?
Yeah, it sounds a whole lot like somebody going,
That's exactly how it sounds.
like so literally it's almost like just babbling, But I heard two ladies on the subway speaking in Changsha, and they're like, one lady turns to the other and she goes, and she goes,
Sound like turkey.
okay. So it's like there's this, it's a strange language. And if you go down south, the majority of people speak Cantonese.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. And Cantonese is what you're going to hear when you see any like Danny Way movie, like Ip Man or whatever. He's speaking Cantonese. He's not speaking Mandarin. So if you see any of those movies, you're hearing Cantonese. So you hear it's kind of a whiny. Okay, it's kind of whiny. There's like this upward pitch. In Chinese, there are 4 tones. In Cantonese, there are like 8.
So Chinese, you mean Mandarin, right?
Yeah, in Mandarin Chinese. In Cantonese Chinese, there are like 8 tones. It's like double the tones. So I had a hard time processing.
Yeah,
but here's the dirty little secret about the tones, though. Okay, is that the Chinese
Sorry, that's
don't.
my son.
Is that the Chinese don't actually use tones.
He's learning Chinese.
So when you speak Chinese, the only time the tones are really important is if you're speaking incredibly slowly or only saying one word at a time. Okay. So I'll give you an example of the 4 tones. Okay. There's a high, steady tone. Ma. There's no tone at all. Ma.
What does that mean?
Each one of these words is a different thing.
Okay.
So one is a horse. Okay.
Wow.
So, and then how they're used in conjunction with each other will change their meaning completely as well.
Yeah.
That's
right?
so weird.
So here's, so ma. Then there's a rising tone, ma, and then a falling tone, ma. Okay. So those are the 4 tones in Chinese, in Mandarin Chinese. But the problem is that if I'm saying something to you, like if I say wa, a Chinese person goes, I don't know what you're saying. Wei, I don't know what you're saying. Because in their mind, this is what they're doing. I say wa, and their mind pulls up all of the Hanzi, all of the characters that represent wa, and they don't know which one I'm talking about.
Mm-hmm.
So they're
So
confused.
you have to have the tone.
And I go, Wei, and they pull up all these characters of Wa, and then all these characters of Wei, and they don't know which ones go together, right? They're trying to work
so it's through tones.
a picture puzzle, right? And so if I say one word at a time, they don't understand. But if I speak quickly and concisely and confidently, 我会说一点点普通话，可是我说得不好。 there's only a certain way those words go together. So by the time I hit the third word in the sentence, they've isolated what I'm saying and they're now tracking me with the symbols in their head.
That's how
so they understand what I'm saying.
That's how I follow Spanish right now.
So they
Two
think
words I
in
know,
pictures.
Like, oh, okay. I kind of get it.
So they think in pictures, and that's how they have to discern that.
That's crazy.
But when we were doing the Bible study, right, we get people to the Bible study, and that's where the bulk of our conversions happened, was in the Bible study.
So how did you reach some of them?
Carefully. You have to, I mean, it's the same as reaching anyone, right? Charles Spurgeon said that the hard part isn't getting someone found or getting someone saved. It's getting someone lost.
God picked the right person to send out there.
I don't know about that.
Well,
That's
you have a lot of
highly-
patience. I would have lost my mind.
You're all,
Who
Pastor,
says
there's no
I
one here that
didn't?
wants to get saved.
Who says I didn't?
Did you lose your mind out there?
A little bit, I think. I mean,
A little bit.
there's a moment where you start to go, why am I here?
Mm-hmm.
Am I making any impact at all?
Mm.
And that's a normal doubt for a missionary pastor or a pastor in any situation, is that you just stop at some point and you go, what am I doing here? This is stupid. This was the biggest mistake I've ever made in my life. And then you have to fall back. I had to rewind the tape, right? Because when we got sent out, I had talked to Pastor Warner about China 3 years before we went. I wasn't even a door director yet when I talked to Pastor. I sent him an email about Changsha, China. And then I said, and I just dumped it out there into the ether because Pastor Warner doesn't normally respond to emails like that. It's just, they go into the pit. And years later, I become door
The
director.
toilet pit.
and then after that, we got announced to go to Gilbert. So we were supposed to go up to Phoenix. And we're trying to get into Phoenix. I'm trying to find a job. Nothing is happening. Nothing's panning out. No place is offering me employment. 2 places finally offer me a job, one for $10 an hour to live in Gilbert. And then the other was for $12 an hour. And they promised me that they would work me 80 hours a week. Well, how am I going to run a church with 80-hour week work week? You know, I'm like, yeah, okay, I can make enough money to live in Gilbert, but at the same time, I can't start a church.
Yeah.
So Pastor Warner was just like, well, let's just wait. So then Pastor Ruby told me, maybe we should start thinking about someplace else to send you. So he says, you know, let's start thinking about maybe Africa, maybe Saurita, maybe, you know, Rita Ranch. And so I'm write this email to Pastor in January of the conference that we got announced to China. And I kind of write a little bit about Tanzania, a little bit about Saurita, a little bit, you know, I don't know what your mind is, Pastor. You know, I default off your wisdom. And I'm about to hit send and I look at it and I just go, dude, this is not where my heart is, man. This is not my heart. I'm writing this, but this is not me. I'm obeying, but I'm not being honest. So I erased everything about Tanzania and just dumped everything I knew about Changsha on the page again and sent it off in January.
So real quick, what stood out to you about Changsha that's where you knew that you wanted to go?
Well, it wasn't necessarily that I knew that I wanted to go there. What happened was my wife and I started to pray for Japan, and we really, really started to pour our hearts into Japan. And that July conference up in Prescott, they launched Gary Case into Japan. And my wife and I felt like, holy cow, God listens to us. Dude, we prayed for Japan and God sent somebody there. So then we were like, dude, let's find a local city, like a domestic city that's never, ever, ever had a church, and let's pray for that. So we really, really looked around and we decided we were going to pray for Detroit, Michigan. And we started praying for Detroit. And the whole next year, we just committed ourselves to praying for Detroit. And the following conference, dude got sent to Detroit.
Wow.
And then we were like, God hears us. And then we started like,
We're doing it.
we had been reading the book, China's Opening Door and the China Road, and kind of fascinated with China as a place.
Mm-hmm.
So then we said, where do we have churches in China? we want to pray for a city in China. We're just going to choose a city in China arbitrarily. So we started looking, and if this table was China, we have a couple of churches here, a couple of churches here, a couple of churches here,
all on the outskirts,
all on the coast. We had nothing in central China. And I said, dude, we're not in China. We're flirting with China. Yeah, we got to go to China if we want to reach China. You're not in China till you're in
Where
China.
they poop on the streets.
So we started looking up cities, and we found 3. We found Changsha and then 2 others. And I don't even remember what the other 2 were. But we just kind of decided that we were going to pray for these 3 cities. But as I was praying for these cities, it's like I'd be praying for one of these cities and my mind would kind of drift to Changsha, and I would just start praying for Changsha, and I'd be praying for Changsha. And I'd pray for Changsha for about 20 minutes and then realize, oh shoot, I'm supposed to be praying for that other place. And I would go back to that and I'd be praying for that other place for a little bit. But my mind would always drift back to Changsha. Then in April, Pastor Warner rolls up to me and says, did you tell the other dude in China about Changsha? And I said, no, I don't think so. And he goes, weird, and rolls away. And I'm like, what's weird? What's weird mean?
That's weird.
Yeah, he's like, weird. and I was like, what's weird? What's weird mean? What's it? And he wouldn't tell me, just kind of rolls away. But then Thursday night at a conference, when he announces us, he tells me, or he tells the whole congregation this big story, right? He says, so Cory years ago sent me this email about Changsha.
So he read it.
Yeah. And then after that, this year in January, he sends me another email. And I thought, Cory's crazy. China. Cory's crazy. Then this dude sends him an email that says, hey, I've been looking at some cities in central China, and I'm thinking maybe a couple of these have what it takes to be awesome cities for a missionary work. And he says, first one on the list was Changsha. And he goes, that sounds familiar. Is that the city that Cory told me about? So he digs through my emails in his file, pulls out that email, and he's reading about Changsha. He has this dude's email that says Changsha would be a good city. He has my email that's giving him all these stats and statistics and information about Changsha. And he's looking at both of them, and his phone rings. And he picks up the phone, and it's Billy Conrad up in northern New York.
Up in Changsha.
and he does a lot of work with Chinese immigrants that are getting their doctorate degrees in Canada. So
yeah. I know exactly what you're talking about.
So he's like doing a lot of work with these like Chinese immigrants, right? And he says, hey, I want to let you know, Pastor, that we're coming in for conference, and I'm going to bring some Chinese girls with me, but they're not going to be the same Chinese girls that came last year. Those girls had to go back home. Their visas were up. They finished their degrees. But they do want us to send a church to their hometown if it's possible. And he goes, well, Billy, what's their hometown? He goes, well, it's Changsha in the Hunan province. So he's holding my email. He's holding that other dude's email. Billy's on the phone. And he says, dude. I can't ignore this. Yeah. So in those moments when I thought, what am I doing here? This is stupid. I had to rewind and think about everything that God put into place and know I am where God wants me to be, and I am doing what God wants me to do, and God's going to help me. Yeah. You know,
what did the praying for like these places in China? What did that look like? What did that consist of? Like if we had to kind of break it down, like what were you praying for specifically? Like, and like how did that burden become like something like through your prayer life? How did it? So if that makes any sense.
It started by me just praying for like God to open a door into this place, like send somebody, right? It's a simple thing. I just started to pray for God to send somebody to Changsha. Then I started to God really started to move on me, and I started to find myself binding things, you know? So I'm like, I bind disbelief in Changsha. I bind witchcraft in Changsha. I bind idolatry in Changsha. When you open the door into that city, because I know you will, I pray that you would just give the guy that goes there wisdom to reach these people. So
you weren't praying for yourself to go there. You were praying for the people there.
I was praying for the people,
country.
Because I didn't think I was going to go. Wow. Nobody ever goes international on the first time, you know?
Yeah, no one goes international. Yeah. It's usually you got to go somewhere else first, and then once you're successful,
it's like there's there's an unspoken process. And that unspoken process is maybe your first time out, you either pioneer a church if pastor really trusts you, or if he doesn't really trust you, you take over an existing church.
Mhm.
Then you're successful with that. Then you come back for redirection. And then maybe you go international. Maybe you don't. Maybe you do another pioneer
I
work.
remember when they
you know.
announced you, bro. I was like, what?
We were like,
China?
what?
Dude, that's so funny because my father-in-law actually
is one of the others
he's
that went
one of the others
international.
that went international.
There
right
are only
away.
like 4.
Yeah, there's not very many of them.
There's Pastor Dave Ford,
Yeah.
Pastor Marty Carnegie,
Mhm.
Pastor Alvin Smith,
Pastor Cory Galindez.
yeah, that might be
I
it.
think that's it, dude.
So there's only 4 that have actually gone first
Got
try
directly
directly over
Directly
overseas.
international.
Oh my gosh.
So there was an amazing amount of pressure from the very beginning. You know, I knew that I better perform. You know, I mean, I better do this. One of the things I realized is I know a lot of guys who are disciples who think like I'm going when I get out in the field, then I'm going to pray every day.
Hmm.
I'm going to pray twice a day. I'm going to really devote myself to 3 hours of study every day.
Yeah.
I'm going to really commit myself to writing 3 sermons a week, you know, and it's like,
Too late.
and in their mind, they're thinking
Mhm.
when I'm there, this is what I'm going to do. This is the behavior that I'm going to do. But I teach people in my CCW class that you're going to fight the way you train.
Yep.
That's just the way it is. You will never rise to the occasion. You will fall to your level of training. And that's just the way life is.
Yeah, right.
Yep.
So if you're not doing it now, you're not going to do it then.
That's a very good point. You know, there's people out in our fellowship and even not in our fellowship that want to become pastors, that want to do a work for God, that feel like they're called, but they're not living like they're called now.
Yeah, exactly.
And so it's a matter of, this is very good. You know, I know we're gonna shift soon because you have time constraints. But this is very good for those of you that are listening and you feel like you're called by God to do a work. You got to live like that now because God doesn't follow man's process.
Yeah.
You may think, oh, I have time. I'm going to get sent to Phoenix first. I'm going to get sent to California first where it's going to be comfortable and nice. The weather's going to be great. No, you're going to go to
Wherever God needs you.
a hole in the floor. You know what I mean? You're going to go to places where you're going to be very uncomfortable.
Yeah.
And you're not going to be used to that. So
You're going to go to Cambodia.
But that's the whole point of the gospel is in order to effectively spread the gospel, there has to be a certain level of discomfort involved.
Mhm.
There has to be.
Yeah.
Okay. Because otherwise, if it's easy for you to do it, then everybody would do it.
that's very good.
But just walking up to somebody on the bus and going, hey, have you heard about Jesus, man?
Yeah.
There's a certain level of discomfort that comes in that. You know, there's an old saying, if you're working in an office environment, dress for the job you want.
Yep.
Right. Now that doesn't exactly translate to things like construction work or whatever like that. You know, you don't come in a suit and tie or, you know,
doing construction.
you know,
I want to be a
shoveling
lawyer,
dirt.
but
So if you're in an office environment, they say dress for the job you want.
Right.
Okay. So you dress like a manager if you want to be a manager.
Right.
But you start that before you're a manager. You start that on your first day of
bro,
work.
there's a skit in there, bro, where he's trying to dress like his foreman, like identical. He's all, I want his job. You know, we could write something with that.
No, that's
So,
very good. That's very
when
good
you
about what
when you
said.
feel like you're called into the ministry, if you feel like, dude, I want to be a pastor, I feel like God's calling me to be a pastor, then you better work like a pastor now. You work like the job you want. You work like, okay,
Mhm.
you don't dress like the job you want. I don't give a crap what you're wearing on Sunday morning if
Amen.
you're not working like the job you want. You better be in prayer. You better have a personal prayer life.
Yeah.
Okay. If you can't make it to morning prayer, you better get up every morning and pray in your house.
Yeah.
You better establish God's presence. You better have a study habit. I mean, you better be doing these things now because you're definitely not going to do them when you get out there.
Yeah.
You know, and we can go even as far as saying, you know, if you want to be a Christian,
Yeah, exactly.
You got to establish that prayer life. You got to establish that Bible time.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? That actual, I mean, just the other day, it was actually when we had that meeting for the next Saturday show.
Oh, yeah.
I was at Home Depot, and the past fast that we just had was like the first fast that I actually did 3 days with, no breaks, like just completely just going. And I remember I did the fast, whatever, and I got to be honest, I haven't witnessed to somebody like a full on with the goal of praying with them to see if they wanted salvation in some time.
Yeah.
Because, especially with COVID, you're not going up to people just talking to them and saying, hey, people are kind of skittish now.
Yeah.
It's very different. So this dude asked me for money, and I normally don't give people money. All I got his card, man. My bad. All I got is card. That's like my standard. Get away from me. I know why you want money.
Dude's like, it's okay, man. I got a square.
Like, dude in China, what is it, WeChat?
Yeah, WeChat. They're like, just WeChat it to me, bro. Just WeChat.
So he asked me, and long story short, I witnessed to this dude. I give him $5 because that's all I had in my wallet. I didn't have anything smaller. And so I was like, all right, here. And I'm like, I'm going to witness to you now because I just paid for you.
I paid for your time.
I just paid you to listen to
You
this.
need to listen now.
And this dude just broke down. He was literally getting that money to go buy drugs because he found out his girlfriend cheated on him. And he said he doesn't know like why he's even here.
Mm.
And I told him, I said, all those stories about people like, oh, my life changed at this moment, and I said, today's that day for you.
Mm.
And he got saved. And I remember when Pastor Garrett did like a class of how to witness.
Yeah.
And then you ask them, hey, if you were to die right now, where would you go?
Yeah.
And they say heaven. Everyone says heaven. I mean, after they pray, usually they do. And I asked him why. And his answer was spot on, because I've accepted Jesus. He's forgiven. He understood. And so I got his number. I sent him the link to our church and try to follow up. But either way, that was like the first time I actually recently stepped out and did something as a Christian. Not in the church, not in my house, but like being a Christian outside of the normal, day to day. And so how much more do we need to do that as Christians?
Yeah.
Not only just trying to go preach and be, a light to the world, but we got to do that now.
Yeah, exactly. I think that there's a massive sense of urgency now.
Yes.
Mm-hmm.
I agree.
It's not that we're getting further and further away from Jesus coming back.
Mm-hmm.
He's getting closer and closer to coming.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. And that's actually what's fueled a lot of, like I said, my own desire to really kind of figure all this stuff out again, because Jesus is coming back.
Yes.
Am I gonna have the time to actually even complete the task that God has set for me? Like that's a real fear for me.
Yeah.
I know that God can redeem time because He operates outside of time. He's not on my timetable and everything like that. So I know God can redeem that. But now it's important because now it's a thing where it's like, no, I need to do what God put me here for.
And what's that?
And so that's what I'm working out right now, and that's why it plays into where I'm working, what I'm doing, where's my purpose at? And so to find that, there's things that I have to change. Like you're talking about, reestablishing a prayer life, reestablishing, reading the word and everything like that, getting to know Jesus more, not just from the things that are just spoken from the pulpit, because that's there. Your pastor's there and they speak wisdom, they speak the word and everything like that. And what I've done for this so many years is taken that and craft that. And like, I feel like I'm good with understanding concepts and things that I can understand, I can turn around, I can teach. And this is how I got into firearms and everything like that. I'm good at being able to study those kinds of things and take those concepts, understand them, break them down, and then be able to reteach them. But I can do that in a way where, yes, I can teach these things, but at the same time, they don't always reach home, with me. And it's like, oh, well, I've been a Christian this entire time, and I've been ministering, to people, helping people, giving people advice and stuff like that. And it's like, where is it really? How deep is this stuff really in my spirit?
Mhm.
And that's like, man, you know what? Because I look at like Pastor Dave Ford, yourself, Pastor John Scheidt, and the way that these people love other people and the way that they love God. And there's times when I'm envious. I'm like, man, I wish that I didn't have like a church background where I grew up in church. I wish I was just like completely sinful, and then all of a sudden, God changed my life because like to not know, and then to be like, oh man, it's a miracle, because it's almost like, like the familiarity breeds contempt. You know what I'm saying?
Exactly.
Just being in, and now I'm starting to see a different side of how God has been gracious to me, because like the way that they love God so much, I'm like, man, why? I see that. I know it. I understand it. But why isn't my spirit connecting with it the same way?
Mhm.
Why don't I have this burning desire to love God so much? And it's like, well, it's because what God did in their life. God transformed them.
No,
they
you
were
gotta
trash.
pray about those things.
No, I know. But this is what I'm saying. I'm not saying this is what it is. This is my thought process. And so I'm like, why are these things not set in my spirit? Why are these things not set in my soul? So my endeavor now to draw closer to Christ, to really under, because I read the Word of God, and I know, like Pastor Alvin preached just like a masterpiece Sunday evening. Taste
you-
and see.
If you didn't hear
Very-
that sermon, go to
worth it.
YouTube,
Absolutely.
find Pastor Alvin's sermon from Sunday night, and give it a
Pastor
listen.
Alvin Smith, you said
Yeah,
Warner.
Oh, what did I? Did I
You
say
said-
Pastor Alvin Warner?
Yeah. I was like, when did Pastor Warner preach that?
Pastor Smith. Sorry, Pastor. So Pastor Alvin Smith, but he's talking, he's saying, taste and see that the Lord is good. And I've
Carne asada.
I've been it's good like carne asada, better. But I've been like, I've witnessed God's mercy and God's goodness in finances, in situations where like I've screwed something up and God has pulled me out, me and my family, or God has done a miracle for us. And it's like, yes, all right, cool. But like what Pastor's talking about, taste and see, that like I want that so much more. Like my desire is like, God, there is a goodness to you that is so much deeper that Christians don't realize. And I want that. I want that closeness. You know what I mean?
Well, Jesus said, "Blessed are those who hunger and thirst after
right.
righteousness, for they will be filled."
Yeah. So
Hey.
I'm just waiting for the feeling.
So if you
I'm
are
waiting for it,
honestly
man.
hungering and thirsting after
Yeah.
the things of God, God is going to fill you. That's
Yeah,
a promise.
yeah, I'm
That's
not-
a promise.
Yeah.
You know,
Because that's
I'm
one of the
waiting for
things
it.
too that I had. I mean, I always prayed for was like, God, help me to be genuine,
yeah.
and help me to look at other people through your eyes, because I hated people, bro.
Yeah.
I couldn't stand people, but I really wanted to be right with God.
Yeah.
And I said,
Yeah.
God, give me a heart for people.
Mhm.
And I continue to pray until eventually, bro, like I started to like feel like I could actually empathize with people, like,
Mhm.
like before when a homeless person would ask me for money, I would tell him, get a job, you bum.
Mhm.
I used to drive by one time, one of my uncles, he's a Vietnam War vet.
Bro, it's so funny. I saw him and I was like, there's this, and I filmed him on Instagram. And this crazy old man. He's like, hey, that's my uncle. I was like, oh,
This guy's a character though, but I was it was right there on 6th and the freeway. I was getting off, and I just saw this bum with a sign that said Vietnam War. I'm sorry, a homeless man with a sign that said Vietnam War vet, and I stuck my head out the window and I said, "Get a job, you bum!" And it was my uncle. He looked right at me.
Like,
But see, the thing is that my uncle, he gets help from the government because he's mentally ill. He can't work. And, you know, he's a veteran. So he has all this help.
there's circumstances.
He just likes to go and panhandle because he brags about how much money he'll make. But he's not homeless, you know? But he's not right in the head. But
like he has a place to stay, right? He has a place to live.
yes, he has an apartment that they pay for. He has a bank account and he'll go and deposit the money that
Oh
he
my God.
collects into the bank.
Well, I mean, he's working hard for it, I guess.
But he gets a check. He gets food stamps.
Kind of
they
sounds
pay
like
for his
California
rent.
right now.
But anyway, no, but yeah, bro, that's
True
one
as
of the
well.
things that I have prayed for, and I've asked God, like, God, give me a heart for people. So now, like, I'll go and I'll witness to people. I'll talk to people that I normally
Yeah.
wouldn't talk to when I wasn't saved, and that is God, bro.
Yeah.
But I really had to like get down on my knees,
Yeah,
bro,
definitely.
and fast and pray and say, God, please help me because I am jacked up.
Mm-hmm.
You know.
And that's the thing, you know, with all of our stories, there's also people listening. We're not perfect. You know, we haven't arrived.
Yep.
I mean, you achieved what a lot of disciples in the church yearn for, to get sent out and start a church, right? And you go out there and you're like, what the heck am I doing here?
Yeah.
So even after you landed and you're already ministering and doing stuff that you know, prayed and fasted for, you're still like, man, I shouldn't be here. Why am I here?
Yeah, I there was no worse moment in my Christian life, I think, than the frustration when I had been there a few days and I got a text from a brother that was like, how many people have gotten saved?
Oh, already a few
And
days.
I'm like,
Yeah, I can't speak the language yet, man. Still.
I'm like, dude, I can't even figure out the toilets here. And you're asking me how many people have gotten saved. Oh, okay. You know, I mean, and there's this sense of worthlessness, like 25 people should have gotten saved, like in the airport, you know, like as I'm walking through the airport, people are supposed to be like falling at my feet. Oh my God, the conviction of the Holy Spirit. Like, and that just doesn't happen.
We've been
you know? You're
waiting
just
for
like,
you.
Yeah, exactly. And that's what I expected. You know, I expected that there were a certain number of people that were waiting for us. We heard from people that there were people there that had already been praying for a church, that had already like purchased a building, and that they were like ready to receive a church. But when you get there, it's like none of those things are true. Like none of them are true. So, and then you're like fighting this uphill battle against discouragement and depression, and you fall into this fog where you just feel like, why am I here, man? What am I even doing? You know? And the fact is, you have to lean on God's promises and God's will. Okay, that God brought you here.
That's so great. You know, there's people listening, you know, you want to do something for God. I mean, Anthony, you're in a position right now where you're actively seeking, God, what do you want me to do in my life? How do I emulate a good Christian, godly man? You know, and David, you know, I've talked to you many times. You want to preach, you want to do something for God. You've gone out there and done it. So this episode, I could say, is dedicated to the calling of Christ over our lives, and how to approach and how to prepare. You know, because if you fail to prepare, you prepare to fail. I mean, we've all heard that. You know what I mean? So let's apply this, you know, in our own lives individually. And if you're listening, drop in the comments if you have any questions. You know, I can always reach out to Cory. You know, any specifics, you know, that you guys are interested in. And, you know, hopefully this helps, and hopefully this really ministered to you. I mean, I enjoyed it. Thank you, Cory. Thank you, Anthony, for coming. I really enjoyed this episode because this is something that every man, I should say, and woman, I mean, just the women alone, realize that just in praying for specific things with your husband, you can move things. You can move things into motion. And not only that, I'm sure your time out there, you know, she was probably a huge if not the only support you had out there?
My wife is my hero. And I know that like Pastor Warner has said this before, but truly, I don't know if I could have survived China mentally without my wife. She's incredible. She's the strongest, most diligent woman I've ever met in my life. And I mean, honestly, if you'd like to bring her into the podcast and ask her take on China and praying for China and everything that led up to it, I'm sure she'd totally be game. Which
might be
a good podcast.
I definitely want to start getting the
Women.
opposite sex on this.
But yeah, shout out to Sarah, the sleep lady. Sleep lady. She knows what that means.
I know. I was confused.
my wife has sleepy magic for babies.
Yeah.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Yep.
She picks up a baby and the baby's like,
And they're out. Yes. I walk them to my car.
it's like she's a walking sedative for babies.
So we'll definitely have you guys on again, maybe individually, so we can dive in deeper on more other thing.
Awesome.
More focused on other things. So thank you for coming on the show. If you're watching, make sure you subscribe, hit that like button. If you're listening on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, make sure you just follow us and give us a good rating.